on this gentleman right here. So just wanted to just thank you. You know, a lot of times we don't get a chance to go ahead and thank those who kind of shared this information and definitely shared it indirectly. May not have been there, but definitely want to thank you. So watched a lot of your YouTubes, all the hidden colors. Of course, Out of Darkness. Of course, the latest Out of Darkness, which is phenomenal because you guys actually started talking about the spiritual systems. You know, definitely been dabbling in, haven't gone into all the way into spirituality before religions. You know, so definitely, man, I'm excited to hear what you have to say, especially with with Freemasonry, the African links to it. It's awesome. We've been taking this to a lot of us have been taking this to our lodges. So definitely just know that we've been taking this little spark that you've given us, and we're trying to make it a flame, man, to go ahead and let folks know, man, where the stuff actually comes from, and it's not a mystery. So you know, we're excited. Right, so, excited. Thank you. Seriously,
so look, gentlemen, we're set to go. We're set to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick here. So with no further ado, Brother Lockett, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I'm Brother Lloyd Lithcott. I'm a member of King Solomon Lodge, number 6. I'm past master. I'm a past grandmaster as well. I'm a member of Most Worshipful Regular Moorish Grand Lodge of New York, which is headquartered here in Brooklyn. I've got pretty much all the regular degrees. I've been traveling for 25 years now, going on 26 in February.
Nice.
And my cup ain't full yet, so I'm looking forward to you pouring into me some more.
Right. Go ahead, my brother.
All right. Brother Baron Reynolds here, hailing here from Youngstown, Ohio. I actually serve as the junior warden under Mount Hermon number 5, which is under the original King Solomon Grand Lodge here in Ohio, where our Grand Master is going to be Grand Master Kevin Knight, Worshipful Kevin Knight. And I serve under also the General Grand Masonic Congress of United Ancient Free and Accepted Scottish Rite Masons, where we have the President General, which is the Honorable Ernest L. Bynum. And underneath him is going to be the first Vice President, which is Oliver L. Morris. And I'm super excited tonight. We got the legend himself in the building. I can't believe that I see my fat head on this screen. You know, as far as with him on here, I'm telling you, man, this is man. Brother Hawkins, man, is doing some great stuff. But man, it's a surreal moment. I'm excited.
All right. Well, I'm your host for the evening, and I'm going to let the one and only Professor introduce himself to everybody.
Well, peace and hotep to the family. My brother Tony, I thank you so much for this opportunity, the conversations that we've had. And this is a very important time for us as a people. There was something that Kwame Tori told me years ago when I was in college, and he came to visit us. And he told me that the closer you get to the Creator, the closer the devil is going to get to you. And I've often remembered that as it relates to our experiences, because many times as a people, when they come at you real hard, there are a lot of emotions that come in. But what we have to understand is that the harder they come at you, the more insecure they're feeling about themselves. Because when you're secure in yourself and who you are, no one else outside of you threatens you.
Right.
The more guns you carry, the more fear you have in your heart.
Right.
Right.
The angrier you are, the more insecure in your position that you are. So I find these times that we're experiencing right now just so phenomenal as it relates to looking at it. And for me, looking at things from a cosmological perspective, when you step back and look at things from the cosmos, you come to understand how insignificant your particular time is as it relates to how long things have been going on.
Mhm.
Right.
And so I'm just very pleased to be able to be here and to be able to speak with brothers such as yourself and our sister counterparts who are attempting to get into this concept. And just as you were talking about Solomon, one of the interesting things about the research that I've been doing is that when you get into the origins of soul man, you and the sun man, because soul, sun, concepts of Ra, you come to realize that what the Western world has done is they take our historical figures who have done phenomenal things during their time, and they superimpose a mythology over our historical figures.
Yeah.
Solomon and Sheba historically really are Amenhotep III and Queen Ty. Historically speaking.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, Solomon and Sheba is a mythology that has come out of the Western civilization.
Mhm.
However, the concept of Amenhotep III and Amenhotep and his wife Queen Ty, the marriage of the Kushites with the African Kemites of the 18th dynasty, because this is the historical thing that's happening during the 18th dynasty.
Yes.
They're just coming out of the Hyksos invading them. The 17th dynasty, Sekenere Tao, Sennacherib Tao, push the Indo-Europeans out. Ahmose I, the son and grandson of Sekenere and Sennacherib, established the 18th dynasty. And then for more than 250 years, African people, longer than how long the United States has been in existence,
Yes, sir.
one family, one dynasty, literally developed a civilization of which Amenhotep III is going to come towards the end. The historical figure upon which Moses is built, Mez, which means son of, Thutmose, Moses. See, what Indo-Europeans did is that they took the O out of Moses and they created, in their writing, Ramses, Thutmose.
Right.
But really, it's Thutmose, the son of Thought or the son of Tehuti, the son of Ra.
Yes, sir.
And so Mez means son of.
Yep.
And so Moses actually is the son of Amenhotep III and Queen Ty, who is Amenhotep IV, who actually is Akhenaten.
So
Akhenaten.
So my question would be in all of that and what some of us have learned on our own in gathering information, because now you can pretty much Yahoo, Google, any type of real information you want. But a lot of us old school cats really kind of went to the library, dug up a lot of this for ourselves. And here we are today trying to put together some of the fragmented pieces of that in the ancient rituals that has been passed down. And we know once the Europeans has seized those rituals, some of that was changed, and the information you're bringing forth now really intertwines with that. Would you care to even bring that kind of full circle a little bit? Because you was hitting on it as far as Solomon is concerned in that direction you was going.
When you think about what has happened to us since, let's say, Western civilization, and I'd like to start not with the Greeks, I'd like to start with Cambyses, the Persian, 525 BC, that invades Kush Kemet. Dr. John Henry Clark often says that the sun set on the African rule of the eastern corridor of Africa with Cambyses in 525 BC, before the Common Era. On your side of the world, Brother Tony, you got a brilliant scholar by the name of Dr. Wade Nobles.
Okay.
Dr. Wade Nobles says that Western civilization and our experience with Western civilization is vomit. And by that, he meant that when the Greeks sat at the feet of our because we don't have the records of what the Persians got because they only ruled for 181 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they were never able to establish any kind of foothold in repeating what the Kush Kemet the peoples of Kush Kemet actually were teaching. So we go to the Greeks at this point. The Greeks who don't exist, the Greeks are an illusion. The Greeks are a group of northern Germanic tribes that come down into the Mediterranean basin at some point in history and come upon Africans in the Mediterranean basin, which includes Turkey. It includes all of the islands in the Mediterranean. It includes the western coast of Spain, Italy. And so you have all of these Africans. And when you look at the Italy, right, if you go to what might be called the western coast of Italy, it was called in the ancient world Etruria.
Yes.
And Etruria is the land of the people that are called the Etruscans. Sardinia, the island of Sardinia, all of that area there are the Etruscans. These are an African people. These are Kush Kemetic people. But don't lose sight of the fact that you've got West Africans here too. This is history that we're beginning to find out, that the word Olympics comes from Nigeria.
Really?
From the word Olu. Olu.
Okay.
And like Oludumare. So you have that, and you have brothers and sisters named Ola. And what it means is mountain. So that's where you get Mount Olympus from. But we have to do this linguistically and move through this process to understand the key ingredients. The Greeks don't exist. Further down the road, there's going to be another wave of Germanic people come down, and they're going to come into Italy. They are now going to what we call the Romans. So that the Greeks, who were enslaved by the Romans to teach them what the Africans had taught the Greeks, they never got it. So Dr. Wade Nobles calls it vomit, because they did not have the intellectual enzymes to be able to break down that rich meal that the Kush Kemet were teaching them. Let me just give you an example, for instance, in alchemy, alchemet. When you go on the periodic table of elements, I take you down to number 79 and number 80. Number 80 on the periodic table of elements is Mercury. Let me stick a pin there for a minute and say there's only one atom or element that exists in the cosmos. And that is number one, what we call hydrogen. And all of the multiples of that, if you put two pieces of hydrogen together, when you split the atom, and it's called hydrolysis, when you split the hydrogen atom, which happened in the beginning of the cosmic universe, you then get helium. If you have three pieces of hydrogen, you then have lithium. And it goes on. If you have six pieces, it's carbon.
Yes.
Okay, so in the periodic table element, you only have one atom that multiplies itself into all of the other 109 or whatever else numbers they got. They got 116 or 120 something now because they messing with stuff. But if I take you to number 80 and number 79, number 80 is Mercury. If you take one proton, one neutron, and one electron from Mercury, you backtrack it into 79, which is gold. Now, it's not the kind of gold that you find in the ground, but it is another replication of the kind of gold that you can make. When the Greeks saw that, they got so tripped over the creation of gold. And the Kush Kemet was saying, wait, fellas. It's not about the gold that's important. What we're saying is that if you extract all the negativity in your spirit, you will rise to a higher level of consciousness.
Come on, alchemy.
Okay, alchemy, although physical, was really a replication of the multiplication of the many aspects of the human world. Gold had no value in the ancient world, except for the fact its durability and its ability to shape different types of statues and amulets that would last forever. So the idea of eternity was very important. Gold serves a purpose only as it relates to eternity, immortality, but gold itself has no value. And so when the Greeks got a hold of that, they got so caught up in the gold, but they didn't get caught up in the spiritual story that the ancestors were saying. So the Kushites were saying, you know, y'all are always children. You know, you just think so childlike. You can't get deep. So because it was a rich meal, the Greeks could not stomach it. And like all rich things that the human digestive system takes in, it regurgitates it. It's vomit. I'm heading towards answering your question, brother Tony.
Yo, you're right on it. It's funny you say that, because what I'm watching the whole thing play out is that when you said alchemy, it reminds me of a Masonic movie where the guy was trying to put together alchemy and some other he was trying to create gold, as you were saying, through chemistry.
Yes.
Right.
And in the process, that's what the crust of the movie was about. But it was a Freemason movie. So when you said that, it had an aha moment for me when you said gold, but it wasn't in the gold as far as you were saying in the ground. So that brings me to this next question: the difference between being awoke and consciousness, because a lot of people walk around talking about they're woke, but are they conscious?
That is the key. Consciousness,
like a celebrity or something.
according to what we see, consciousness, you can know something. Back in 1992, Spike Lee did a movie, Malcolm X. Everybody was wearing the X hats and the X hoodies, but did they really know who X was? And did they really know what that X represented? The missing knowledge in algebra, the search for the unknown. We as a people searching for that unknown history. And this is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was attempting to get Malcolm and others to understand by putting the X at the end of their name, that you are in search of your last name, which creates a family of who you are as a people. So we walked around with the X. So we knew it was Malcolm X, but did we really know what the X represented? So that's not just knowledge. That's knowledge of your knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between knowing something and then knowing that you know something.
And that's what I get a lot of time. I'm coming back to the Freemason part. That's what I get a lot of times in Freemasonry, because I think we was talking the other night, and I think you mentioned, you can correct me if I'm wrong, knowledge in a person. I think you said it's something like, if a person has knowledge, a little knowledge in someone's hand can be a dangerous man, or something like that. Yeah, I may be misquoting you, but I think you said some knowledge or a little knowledge in a person's hand can make them dangerous.
And it has.
You know, so like in Freemasonry, we used to say Freemasonry had this knowledge, this information. And so you had to become a member in order to obtain this information. But even for those who are Masons, a lot of them don't even understand the concept of being a Freemason, because they have a tribal mind set when it becomes to being a Mason.
That's right.
So go ahead. What you gonna say?
No, brother, I'll follow you once you complete your thought.
So as we get into this ritualistic journey in Freemasonry, we find ourselves on a path that so many has taken, but yet so many misunderstand the path. They're just in it like a social club. Well, my friend is a Mason, so I want to be a Mason. My dad was a Mason, so I want to be a Mason. Not understanding the reason that they took this journey was a personal reason to them. And upon this ritualistic journey, it opened other doors for them consciously. And a lot of brothers hadn't gotten there yet. Go ahead.
I think we're all coming out of the Western civilization.
Mhm.
because Western civilization has a gang mentality.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yep.
so you join things because it's a gang, because it's a group, because you belong. But the real fact is, before you can belong to a group, you got to belong to yourself.
Ooh, that's it.
That's why outside the temples it said "seton nothi." That's Greek for know thyself.
That's right.
Come
Know
on.
thyself. Know who you are.
Right.
Not just as an African. Know yourself as a celestial being. Understand that you are a child of the sun.
Absolutely.
Come on.
Solar power is the future wealth of the planet. All of the ancient civilizations, starting in Africa and moving across the world, paid homage to the sun because they understood the very nature of their existence came from the sun.
That's right.
Sir.
And solar power, solar power is the future wealth of the planet. We got to teach our children solar power. You can start just by teaching them the sun. You can go to the store and buy a book on the sun. Teach them the photosphere, the chromosphere.
Right.
But teach them that they are the sun,
Mhm.
that we are emanations of the sun, that is our spirit. And the rays, the light, heat, and sound rays. Now, the other thing I hear a lot of people say light and heat rays. You can't leave out the sun, the sound,
Yes.
because sound is the frequency that keeps all things in place, which is ma'at.
Mhm.
The sound rays are as important as the heat and the light rays. And when you understand that, you begin to understand that you are part of a much larger, like, for instance, my background, for those that may know but may not know, I'm an educator. And I've been an educator strictly, well, I've stayed in the Bronx. I've traveled around and taught, but I was based in the Bronx. Early childhood was my first license in New York. I was a kindergarten teacher, first grade teacher. And one of the things that I always work with my children, because I realized that the system can't handle the way I would say it, the way that I'll talk to you tonight, the system can't handle that.
Uh-uh.
So I've learned to be bicultural in my conversations.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
And our children, my experiences with them is that they're absolute geniuses. There is a book written by a brilliant brother, Kim Dandwele Fukia, Congolese brother. He wrote a book called Kindezi, Kindezi, Kindezi. It's the art of Congolese babysitting. It talks about the important relationship between the grandchild and the grandparents. The grandchildren are fresh from the ancestral line. The grandparents are returning to the ancestral line.
Ooh. Wait, time out. That's so deep on so many levels.
Yes,
Ooh.
yes, it is.
You know, that's so deep on so many levels. Now, I don't know, Brother Brian, I don't know if you caught that or not, but
Ooh.
that is truly deep. When you go, you need to repeat that because I think somebody missed that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kindezi, the art of Congolese babysitting, and the important role between the grandparent and the grandchild. This occurs while the adult population, basically from maybe 18 to 65, are out there working.
Mhm.
And they're building the civilization, the society, bakers, clothing, making clothes, masons, educators. They're doing the job of the civilization, and it always aimed at making the children better than them.
Mhm.
Now, I can go back and talk about the dynasties if you want to. Remind me to talk about that, but I want to stay on point now because you asked that question.
Go ahead.
Kindezi, the art of babysitting, my grandchildren, the children who are coming into the world from conception through birth, through young, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, they're fresh from the ancestral line.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
The elders have lived a life and they're on their way back to the ancestral line.
Right.
Mhm.
The conversation that the grandparent with the grandchild have is the grandchild reminds the grandparent of what the ancestral line was.
Yes.
And the grandparent teaches the grandchild how to live his or her life to become a successful elder so that they can take their place in the society.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yes.
And this is where the teaching of the culture, the teaching of the mores, the storytelling, Ethiop, we call them Aesop. Ethiop would tell these stories that had morals,
Right.
you know, like the boy who cried wolf,
Right.
Mhm.
you know, hey, be careful what you be crying for, because when it count, ain't nobody gonna believe you if you keep on crying all the time.
Right.
Mhm.
Those types of morals, this is what the grandparent, and this is why elders are storytellers.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, they take, because Dr. Asa Hilliard, he and I worked together back in the late 80s and 90s in Broward County, Florida. And something he once told me, he said that the African mind, I'll say it another way, figurative language is ubiquitous to the African mind.
Mm. Wow.
Now, I had to look that word up. Ubiquitous. And ubiquitous means it's all up in there. It's like, what part of butter isn't milk?
Right.
It's every part of everything. So figurative language, and even if you look at hip hop, you look at rap, look at bebop. Yo, Slip Me Five became High Five. Okay,
Mhm.
everything that you see in hip hop now came direct. If there had hip hop came out of doo wop.
Yes.
Now,
Sound.
now, when you say doo-wop, there are some may be in the chat line may not be really familiar with doo-wop. I'm a little older. I
Okay.
get the doo-wop, you know. I get the
Okay,
doo-wop.
me
You
too.
may have to kind of break down the doo-wop for some. Go ahead.
Doo wop was a music that came complementary to rhythm and blues.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, in the still of the night, Daddy's home. Okay,
Mhm.
when African Americans were first brought into the music as it relates to radio, because remember, radio came.
Right.
Doo-wop was harmony.
Yes.
Right.
This is the difference between black music and white music,
Right.
Come on.
because for us, Four Tops, Temptations,
Yes.
Supremes, Shirelles,
Yep.
okay, we have to be in a group to harmonize.
Mm-hmm.
But what did Western civilization do in the early 70s and 80s? They took the lead singer out
Yep.
and made them single. So what was once Smokey Robinson and the Miracles became Smokey Robinson.
Right.
Mm.
What once was the Jackson Five became Michael Jackson.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
There's one group. Even when you look at the Commodores, they took Lionel
I
Richie
was
out.
just about to say, yes.
Okay. The Supremes, they took Diana Ross out.
Right.
When they did that, they collapsed Ma'at,
Mm.
because Ma'at is harmony,
That's
balance.
right. Balance. Yep.
So with that being said, when you talk about Ma'at and you talk about harmony, with that being said, and that when I look at Freemasonry, it says harmony being the strength of all society,
Come on.
more especially of ours. When I see
Right.
that, and you say, well, they took out the harmony, and you said that collapsed. What we know today is our society per se.
Right.
Am I following you on that?
Yes, because look at what happened after that. Because out of that came hip hop, which is a culture.
Right.
Rap happens to be the evocation of the culture.
Right.
Graffiti is medunetta.
Yes.
Right.
Graffiti
Right.
was our medunetta.
Yes.
Right.
It was a beautiful thing to see pictures
Yeah.
on the wall. Okay, spray painting. To them, it was dirty. To them, it became a crime. But to us, it was an expression of our culture, just
Right.
like medunetta was.
Right.
It's an expression. You put it on the walls. You put it in your homes. Okay, and so the collapse of Ma'at brought forward another fight that came out of the fact that when you have rap music, you got to have a DJ. There are parts of rap music that you have to have, which creates the harmony.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Even in rap music, you have
Right.
harmony. But
Right.
but what is happening now is they're drawing people out. And in drawing people out, you draw them away from the group.
Right.
For African people, we as individuals are part of the group.
Right.
And when we are out of the group, we are like a fish out of water. And Wade Noble says that culture is to a human as water is to a fish.
So do you think that messes with the frequency?
It does, most definitely. But the
Yeah.
beats are still there.
Right.
You see, and this is my son, okay? My son taught me a lot about rap music.
Okay.
Hey, yo, dad, don't listen to, because I mean, I'm listening to the words and I'm listening to what some of them are saying. And I'm saying, yo, man, there's some subliminal messages here, brother.
We'll touch that, but go ahead.
But don't get caught up in the beat. Don't get caught up in the words. Go with the beats.
Okay.
Okay, because this is what everybody say, the beats. When you listen to the beats, I can take you from the beats to Thelonious Monk, Oscar Peterson, and jazz. When I listen to the beats, not the words, but the beats that the words make, I can take you back to Beethoven, another brother.
Yes.
When I listen to the beats, I can take you back to the original language of the human family, which is the click language of Central and South Africa. There's a relationship that we have carried on throughout our legacy.
Right.
And it's the not going back to what you asked earlier, Brother Tony. It is the knowledge of the knowledge. It is the consciousness of the consciousness, not just being conscious. Everybody walking around thinking they conscious. Yeah, you conscious, but you don't know you conscious. Because if you knew it, you would do something. Because I tell people all the time, there is no such thing as a conscious community.
Right.
There is a community that is conscious.
Mm-hmm.
But a conscious community goes back to the earlier point you made that when you become a Freemason, you belong to a club. Consciousness is a way of acting through a pattern of behavior. It is rooted in ethics and respect, not just for yourself, but for the cosmos.
Now, when you say that, within the confines of Freemasonry, we're supposed to exhibit those very things that you said. We are supposed to exhibit those. But what I find that is happening is that somewhere along the road, with the small knowledge or knowledge that some may think they have or gain within the confines of Freemasonry, they really don't understand what they have at their fingertips because they don't apply it to the consciousness to take them on the path or journey that they so desire to be on. And therefore, if they look at it as a club, this is my club. And I tell people all the time, Freemasonry is not a club.
Right.
If you practice Freemasonry.
The ritual is only performed to celebrate what you're doing.
Yep.
The ritual is insignificant.
Yep.
Think of all the early human beings that knew nothing about ritual.
That's right.
But were married in union with nature.
That's right.
All of the rituals that have come into existence came from people who did not have a ritual.
Right.
That's right.
Think about it. The first people that got PhDs were given PhDs from people that didn't have PhDs.
Right.
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 So that when we get deeper into it, and that's why the cosmos is so important to me.
That's right.
Because when you get into the cosmos, you begin to understand how eternal and immortal everything is.
Yes, sir.
And there is a respect for the smallest of things.
And that's within the ritualistic works of the Freemasons. What you're talking about, we find that in our second degree, because in that degree, everything within the confines of the cosmos is there for you to exhibit and work upon. All your liberal arts, all your sciences, all of that is found within that. But even with that being said, the way you're breaking this down, once again, most people, when they get there, they don't know what they have. Because when they see Freemasonry, and we're talking about walking up the winding stairs, and when you get there, you walk into your second degree and you do these things, it doesn't dawn on them that they're entering the cosmos.
If I may chime in on that, I will say one of the main reasons that that's happening is because you got a lot of brothers within our craft that are more concerned with memorizing the ritual without understanding the principle of what's happening. So they want to memorize the ritual and not understand the principle. And that's what's happening. When we start delving into this, and it's amazing when you start looking at, and if I have to say, because there's a lot of European writers that kind of wrote on this, like Manly P. Hall, and so others who wrote about this, and they'll let you know that this actual system is actually in the ancient terms of agriculture that was taught. It's cosmology. Matter of fact, you ready for this? We're in the season right now of old age. Then the next season, which is winter, is going to be death. Spring is going to be birth. Then we're going to go ahead and get back into youth, and so on and so forth. And the cycle is going to go on. Agriculture is going to go ahead and show us that. And it shows that as far as within our craft, the crazy thing is we're more concerned with going ahead and memorizing the ritual, not understanding the principle. And the best way for us to do that is not to go ahead and keep eating, but eat a little bit and digest, or read a little bit and search for understanding, contemplating. That's what's going to go ahead and take. That's the main reason. That's what we've done. And society, and if I may say, this European style society has got us more caught up with competing rather than creating. And it's amazing you were talking about doo-wop and everything, because my grandfather is actually the last living member of a group called the Etzels. They had a group that had a song called Ram-a-Lam-a Ding Dong. He's the last living member. Yeah, he's the last living member. And I saw him today, and it's amazing because the only thing he talks about, one of the main things he talks about and elaborates on, he's a Freemason as well, is how they would come together and do things together.
Yes.
And nobody was worried about who was the star. And what's happening is that kind of conditioning is coming within through the lodge. And that's what's beautiful, is when you start figuring out everything all together. Even somebody like Manly Palmer Hall, he understood that this thing that we call Freemasonry, or Freemason, which is a son of light, because that's what we are, sons of light, when we come to our understanding of all this stuff, is an African spiritual system. But they took it, they knew it, and they found a way to package it without giving the people the keys to the car.
Right.
Is what's happening.
Right.
I'm sorry to go ahead and go on a soapbox and everything on there, but that's what's happening. But I can't sit back. That's what we're here for. So the ones that are on this line, that's why we have, Dr. Kaba Kamene here. That's why we had Professor James Smalls. These guys know that. They were at the forefront when this information was being given to us. Or
and
Dr.
with Dr. Ben.
Yes, when Dr. Ben
he
spoke at a Prince Hall Lodge. It's on YouTube. It's amazing. The stuff out there is free. We're Freemasons. The stuff out here is free for us to go ahead and search. Turn your YouTube into YouTube University. This platform, going ahead and studying. This is YouTube University. Dr. Kaba Kamene, that's why I take my hat off to him. He's given so much information. If you when we get off this line tonight, just look at his catalog, so to speak, that's unput together of all his different speeches. You get a free PhD. But the things that we don't understand is we don't really live by that the best things in life are free. And they are. Because what do? We put more emphasis on the material than the spiritual. And this is going to go ahead. Who I am talking right now, I'm driving this Toyota. It's the one that's inside that's doing it. He was talking about the vibration. We're talking about the word. The Masonic journey is the search for the word. The search for the word. The I am, the Om, the vibration. If there's no enemy within, the enemy outside could do me no harm, because the enemy outside is what? It's material. It's not spiritual. That's what we got to seek. And there's no secret to it. The secret to it is that we don't put enough time into understanding what's happening and the roots in which this thing comes from. That's why they say it takes lifetimes to truly study Freemasonry. And I love what Manly P. Hall says on Lost Keys of Freemasonry. I go back to it. He'll tell you off top that the ritual does not make a man a Mason, nor does the degree ordain him as such. Because you're self-evolved. Know thyself. Mm-hmm. If you know thyself, sooner or later, you'll come to that old adage where you'll start knowing everybody else. Just like there's things about people that we like. Why? Because those attributes are things that we like about ourselves. Yeah. There's things about people we don't like. Why? Because if you look back deep down, there's something about you that you don't care for about yourself. There's a reason why we go ahead and we go look at certain movie stars and everything like that. Why? Because they personify a symbol of what we're actually capable of within ourselves. That's why we pay the tickets to go see Michael Jordan. That's why we go ahead and pay the money back in the day to see Sister Whitney Houston, because she embodies that spirit, that capability of what we embody within.
If I could say one thing, right? I would say that Manly P. Hall's position that being initiated doesn't make you a Mason is correct and incorrect. Masonry doesn't have proper initiators. That's the thing. You have men that do ritual, but you don't have men who have become qualified to truly do the ritual. The point is, and what I'm making reference to that is, when you enter into certain schools, these individuals that are initiating you use this vibration, use this heckle words of power in order to institute change within the psyche of the individual. That's the difference of an initiator who has become truly initiated from those who have taken just the process of saying a bunch of words and moving around an altar. There's two different things there, you know? So I would say Manly P. Hall was correct on the stage of what he was referencing, but he was incorrect that an individual through proper initiation does not make them a Mason. Everyone born on this earth is a Mason.
Absolutely.
There's not an individual that's not. You work a lifetime to work out your degree.
That's an interesting concept.
Absolutely.
That's just how that works. But what he was saying, I totally agree with that from the extent that he was saying it. But we have to understand that we do not have in the Masonic craft, and if it is, I guarantee you, it's not just sitting inside of our lodges of individuals who have reached the degrees of initiation in some form of mastery of certain realities to be able to properly initiate an individual, which is upon a touch, upon a word, even how the lodges are set up to the way they're supposed to be insulated for the vibration, all of that matters. But because we have forgotten the true rule of how it works, then we go through just a ritual. But if you,
my apologies, Supreme Angle, you're going to have to introduce yourself, by the way, because we've already done that.
Oh, okay. I'm Brother Khalil Allah. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I just can't have you in here and you not introduce yourself.
Yeah,
now.
I'm Brother Khalil Allah.
Okay, all right.
You know, it's through those initiatory schools, right? And I say it from that perspective because Freemasonry is a tool. It wasn't a tool for us. It became a tool for us when it came through the Western world because we have become so lost from ourselves, right? Because what we have right now as Freemasonry is destroyed as far as ritual-wise. if we speaking from that perspective, but it was intentional
Now,
because we don't want you to wake up. We want, you
I'm
know,
gonna go back on
discipline.
something that the professor said. And someone mute themselves or I mute you. But the professor said something earlier about harmony. He said something earlier about groups. They took out the lead singer of the group and placed them over here, and that displaced the harmony within the group factor, just as it does in Freemasonry. So what we have to do is bring back an ancient custom and apply it and build it back up. That's what we do here in this Grand Lodge, this jurisdiction from which I'm a part of. We know that the Western part of Freemasonry is a mixed bag, but you have to be able to cultivate that and bring that back up and add your flavor to it. I visit a lot of different lodges, and I'll tell you what I've learned. Every lodge that I visit look like the people who I visited. I went to a Hispanic lodge. They had their own customs within that lodge.
Right.
I've gone to some Caucasian lodges, and it was very proper. It was very them. Okay, so within the Black African American diaspora, within the African diaspora, that Masonic lodge has to act and be
Right.
and harmonize.
Right.
Like you, it
Yeah.
has to have those ancient customs.
Yes.
Like you're ancient, so you have to bring back in that. I tell you what we do, just a little tad bit. So we take the bowl and we tap the bowl and go. We
Hey,
just a little bit.
Yeah.
So you know that is something that you won't find in most Masonic lodges. Just as Professor was saying in regards to chemistry and those other things that are applied within the second degree of masonry.
Right.
And I've heard him speak on some of that stuff. Go ahead there. I'm yielding.
Well, you know, when you go back to the, if we can just look at Kush Kemet for a moment, they had 42 nomes, 42 cities.
Yep.
And every city had a patron. Memphis had Ptah, you know, you had Ra and On, Edfu was Heru. And every one of them was dedicated to the aspect of the character of that particular Neteru or nature. But all 42 gnomes acted in unity like a human body.
Right.
You have hands,
Right.
you have legs, you have organs, you have glands, you have your central nervous system.
Right.
All of them serve a function, but together they're the human body.
Right.
The separation of all of these different lodges with no direct relationship to each other.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I know where you're going.
Go ahead.
It ain't nothing but a bunch of gangs.
That's it.
Boom, boom, boom.
That's it.
Okay, that's all that is.
Don't
If-
cut them up too bad, Doc.
If we don't see the relationship
Right.
between every lodge, it is like the harmony of the four tops.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
The harmony that
That's right.
you realize that, like for instance, okay, I've heard it said that back in the days where you had jazz, Charlie Parker, you had Billy Eckstein, you had Miles Davis,
Right.
you had all these various individuals that had this phenomenal gift.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And Charlie Parker may have come in and they have a group of jazz musicians up there.
Right.
They would invite him up to play, knowing that his playing was going to put everybody to be able to move to the next level. So it goes back to something that was said. It is not about competition. It's about cooperation.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
And it's not a do or die kind of thing.
That's right.
But it goes back to what Brother Islam was saying. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I wanted to make sure I got the brother's name right.
Yes.
Brother Khalil.
Khalil.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
We're not living in the society that promotes that.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't
Right.
survive
Right.
Absolutely.
cooperating with each other. The system demands that you compete and destroy. Look at all the TV shows.
That's right.
American Idol, all of the dance
Right.
shows. It's all cancel
Mm.
culture. Somebody
Right.
got to lose.
Right.
Yes, sir.
The African mind, everybody wins when everybody's on their A game.
Right.
Nobody's canceled out.
Mm.
And so at the end, it is not about one person winning. It's about everybody winning because everybody has brought everybody to their next level of competency.
Right.
We're not living in
I
that
absolutely agree
Right.
with that.
Right.
And we're
And-
destroying ourselves if we were to try to do that.
That's right.
You know what, Elder? To tell you the truth, like when we exist, like even right now, right? And we speaking of Freemasonry, just on the level of Freemasonry, period. Freemasonry in the lodge is a reflection of our people out of the lodge, the mentality and what it is. So that's what's actually in the lodge, right? And the funniest thing is we will destroy, we will fall apart and disappear before we unify, right? And that's even inside of Freemasonry.
Yes.
We will rather disappear than unify. And it's not coming, it's just an ego thing from certain quarters.
Yeah.
It's just an ego thing, right? Of everybody must be one thing, right? Instead of unifying to share with each other what we have. And I make a case in point. The white boy have levels within their degrees. So they'll have Freemasonry that everybody follows. Everybody uses Webb's primary ritual. Almost everyone, right? Across the board. But the white boys have different levels within their degrees to go higher. Now, the average Black Mason never, ever enter the higher degrees that has been allotted for the white boys. Not that it has been limited to them, it's that we have not gained interest because most of us hasn't achieved or even know that it exists to access it. That's, so we're dealing with something. Let's take a case in point. There was a brother whose name I will withhold that high up coming from the white boy lodge, but he was also an initiate of SRICF, SRIF, SCIRF, which is the Masonic Rosicrucian Order. This is a brother that hold high degrees. But the only way he was able to get into that was that he was in their ranks. If you ask the average Black Mason, you ask the average Prince Hall, or just Black Masons, period, have they ever heard of it? Have they ever been invited to it? They will tell you they have not. That they didn't even know that it existed. But yet this doorway is open where these white boys are literally practicing magic in open.
Booyah.
Come on,
And
come on.
I'm just telling it for what it is.
See,
They
here's
are
the thing.
literally,
I'm going to add to that because most of us, when you say practicing magic, most of us get spooked when you say that. Let's just be honest. Most of us
they do.
Man, I ain't messing with that.
They do.
That's
right.
Not understanding the full concept of construct of Freemasonry. What is this? This is a grip. It alludes to. What does illusion mean? It gives you the beginning stages right there. But when brothers talk about all these the greeds that they may have and don't really touch upon them, as you have said, it goes right back to what Professor was saying. You can have it, but are you conscious? You could be awake and still not be conscious, not be aware. And it goes back to just what you were saying.
Absolutely, because we're dealing with that innate systems ultimately. And I know that is there because I'm initiated in those systems. So I know that there are things that we are not dealing with. Now, if you deal with our Haitian brothers, they mix voodoo outright.
You better tell us.
With their Masonic craft. And when you go to their Rose Croix degree, they are doing ritual, fully magic, outright in their ritual, right?
Most of us are afraid. When you talk like that, brother, you scare a lot of Masons.
Of course I do.
Scared. You terrify a lot of them.
But to be honest with you, and I'm not going into religion. I'm trying to be careful, but I gotta say it like I gotta say it.
Let me tell you this. Let me say this real quick. This ain't that type of station. If you gotta say what you gotta say, you gotta say it.
Nico, to tell you the difference, not magic in sport and play with hands of illusion. When I speak of magic, I'm talking about inner alchemy. I'm talking about the reference of understanding heart and mind cohesiveness in order to bring what you want into fruition and will. The issue is, and I'll say this, the problem with Freemasonry, why Freemasonry is so watered down, and why Freemasonry cannot go into the inner sciences, is because Freemasonry has become too Christianized.
I can only speak for some.
Hold up, I gotta be like this. Hold on, and I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not being disrespectful, but we gotta be real about some things.
Absolutely.
And if we're gonna be real about it, let's be real about it across the board, because this is shunned by that religion fully, unless they come from a certain culture for which it exists. Like in Africa, Africa can have Christianity, but it's a very rare thing that Africans do not mix their cultural religious beliefs into a particular system. Even if you go into Islam in Africa and you go into Sufism in Africa, they got magic. They use talismans. They get it in. It's the same thing across, but what we have been fooled in this reality, because Freemasonry is damn near 90% Christian. I'm being honest about it. And to tell you, in one ritual, and you can look it up, in the 1930s, there was a Masonic monitor. And in this monitor, they cite a part of the ritual. And this is not in there no more. And hopefully you can find it online now. It say we must always stand prepared. Listen to this. Stand prepared to cut the throat from ear to ear from anyone who invokes the name of Jesus Christ.
It's still there.
Or the name in the lodge. That was banned. That is now there in some lodges. So what we have to understand is, like for instance, when Masonry first manifested, it was all type of stuff in Masonry. And some of your original Ahiman residents, they talked about people before Adam. They talk about using seership in order for them to be able to see things. Even one of Prince Hall's lectures that he gave at AME Church, he spoke about using clairvoyance. However, what do you got that come into play? Religion took over Freemasonry. This is what happened. So once that comes into play, then you start getting a watered down reality. And then you can't enter into certain regions unless the people enter into a deeper form of mysticism, of thought. And that's not what's actually happening no more. And that has become the ultimate issue within Freemasonry today. Does that mean that all of our brothers that are of Christianity that don't go into the inner sciences? No, I know a few brothers that do. That's not even an argument. I know a few brothers that get it in. But those brothers has been initiated into Rosicrucianism and stuff like that, or dared to step into a study of the history, ancient Kemet, and these particular sciences in order for them to open up their minds to such a view. But if we don't do it, we don't got it. We can cry, we can exclaim and say, you know, it all began with us. It all begins with you right now. We didn't build no pyramids. We're here. We need to build some edifices. It's just what it is. And the number thing, like our brother said, I respect that they bring that within their ritual. We have to be prepared to break ranks, to create our own that is matched to our sciences. That is just very simple. We are too united in white patriarchy rule. And it's a fact.
I'm going to flip that. I'm going to flip that. See, when most people say they are ancient, free, and accepted Masons, when most people say that, that's from a European style of thinking in Freemason, as you were saying. That's the same thing Professor was saying just a little while ago. And it goes back to what you were saying now. This is why we, and I'm only speaking for where I'm at, we take the ancient customs and apply them to us. Because like I said earlier, wherever I've gone, I've always seen the Masonic order look like the people that I go visit. So why can't it look like me? Why can't I take something that was, I don't want to say stolen, but has been misused, and I wasn't privy to take part of it anyway, as far as my ancestors are concerned. And now that I'm here, it should look like me. It should sound like me. So when I enter my Masonic lodge, it is not necessarily that same old stagnatic way of opening. It should open with a high vibration.
Yes, sir.
So when Professor was talking earlier about the harmony, I'm back on that harmony part.
Yeah.
Because that is something that is very significant in the society. I want to say society of Freemasonry. So it must look like you.
I agree.
Must feel like you.
Right.
So you must be able to apply the alchemy to change it.
Right.
Instead of taking someone else and say, "This, I'm a Freemason." But what does that really mean?
That's right.
Yes.
So
Dr. Kaba, Dr. Kaba, you had a lecture one time where you stated that the stuff that we have now, when somebody has said something to you about using European writings and everything, you were stating that it is like a key or something like that. If you don't mind, please elaborate. I think it's the perfect time to elaborate on some of those writings that they had the key, but they couldn't walk through the door. You said something similar to that?
That's right.
Well, I think the point that I was making as it relates to that is that there are those, it came when we talked about if we read other people's writings of other cultures.
Right.
You know, that there are some who say, no, that's European. Right. And what I was attempting to explain is that even in all of us, there are the remnants and the DNA, the epigenetics of the original human being.
That's right.
And that there are times that there are things that people say, because the creator, the energy system of the cosmos, puts knowledge into a person that you least want to hear it from.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Some of the greatest things I ever learned about myself came from my kindergarten children.
Wow.
But I was open to accept that when they would talk to me. I tell people all the time, when I break stuff down, they say, wow, you break stuff down so I can understand what you're saying.
Right.
And that's because, and I always thank my kindergarten children, because when you are teaching or working with a 4 or 5-year-old, you cannot assume that they know what you know.
Right.
So therefore, you got to break it down to its lowest common denominator. That goes back to what we're all talking about. The harmony that if Malcolm was talking to a 5-year-old and a 50-year-old, they both could walk away and understand what the brother was saying.
Absolutely.
That's right. That's
Right.
right.
And
Right.
that's the cornerstone.
Right.
We don't have to go far to see our magi.
That's right.
Come
We go
on.
to the plantation.
Right.
We don't have to go back to the ancient world to see a classical African civilization. Our
That's
ancestors
right.
on the plantation were classical Africans.
Right.
Talk about it.
And my research, when we look at the word magic, as we know, a lot of times, as brother said, it's the art of illusion. It's the art of doing one thing in one hand to distract someone, to manipulate your environment so that when they look back, they think that you pulled a rabbit out of the hat.
That's right.
In fact, Marcus Garvey used to always tell us what magic was. And he performed it. Up, you mighty race. You will
That's right.
accomplish what you will.
That's right.
Come on.
That's right.
What you will. Our
That's
ancestors
right.
on the plantation willed us. You know, I taught at Rikers Island. And I taught in the high school. I taught in the adult places, but I also taught the high school. And they asked me if I would assist them in developing a right to pass program for the high school students at Rikers Island, the brothers.
Mm.
And we had a ceremony. And one of the brothers, okay, now I want to be careful what I say because I know a lot of people are very sensitive to our brother R. Kelly. But I'd like to separate the genius of R. Kelly from the person, the human R. Kelly.
Okay.
And I'd like to go to a song that a brother sang at the Right to Pass program. Now, mind you, I'm in the chapel in Rikers Island. So I'm in a prison in the prison
Yes.
because I'm in a Christian chapel,
Right.
which I consider to be a prison, but that's a
Yeah.
side. The brother stood up and sang, I Believe I Can Fly.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'd like, I'm a teacher, so I got to give everybody homework. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to listen to that song. But this brother didn't sound like R. Kelly at all. In fact, he sounded kind of sad, to tell you the truth. But when I listened to those words of I Believe I Can Fly, and the way in which the droning of the brother's sound of his voice came out, it transported me back to a plantation in 1759. And I began to interpret those words as if I were on a plantation.
Wow.
Listen to those words of I Believe I Can Fly. And think about being an African on a plantation. And then correlate those words to your presence on a plantation. And what I will tell you is that those words, when looked at from that metaphor, I know that our ancestors manifested tonight's meeting on the plantation. They manifested us through their will into existence.
Right.
So we don't have to go far back to see the manifestation. There's a Moorish proverb that says, if you cannot use what you just learned, you wasted your time learning it.
Damn.
Nice.
Bloom's taxonomy
Nice.
of
Nice.
learning.
Come on.
Nice.
The lowest level is knowledge.
Mhm.
When you know something, you then comprehend it. When you comprehend something, you apply it. When you apply it, you analyze what you applied that you understood that you know. And then you synthesize it. You synthesize what you analyze that you applied that you understand that you know. And then after you synthesize it, which is to take that bit of information and put it into your brain and connect it to your whole brain. And
Absolutely.
then from there, you evaluate what you synthesized,
Right.
brought together, that you analyzed, that you applied, that you understand, that you know. Let me put it to you like this. Just as every woman is born with every egg she will ever produce, every human is born with the Akashic records.
Right.
Mhm.
You are born with the cosmic encyclopedia.
Yes.
You are born with every bit of information that has ever existed, that exists now, and will exist in the past.
Genetic memory.
That is it. It is a cosmic genetic memory that is within you. Let me put it to you like this. We're going to turn out all the lights. Can't see a thing. You walked into the room, you couldn't see anything. Don't know what's, you just know you're existing in the perfect black. And then all of a sudden you find the light switch. You turn the light on. You see the tables, the lights, the art on the wall, the TV. You see the boxes, the couch. My question is, did all those things appear in the room when you turned the light on? No, they were always there. Your light just wasn't on.
Right. Yes, sir.
So I see the master teacher as a facilitator that allows the person to know you already know this. All I'm going to do is facilitate you finding the light switch so that
That's
you will
right.
look and see you always knew it.
That's
Right.
right. Absolutely.
Okay? There is nothing. Every one of us, no matter what we may think we have learned in this session we're having,
That's
we
right.
came to this session knowing it.
That's right.
And the only thing any of us could do is facilitate assisting us to know that we already know it.
That's right.
I say this because when I taught my kindergarten
Wow.
children, I never thought and spoke to them in terms of me teaching you something. Oh, I didn't know that. No, you knew it. You just didn't know that you know.
Mm.
How
That's
could
right.
I put something in your head that wasn't already there?
Talk
That's
about
the
it.
synthesis of knowledge. That is the synthesis. And so to teach, and I think these are the higher forms of higher order thinking skills. There are two parts of your brain. Because I've always believed you can't teach anything if you really don't know the anatomy of the brain.
Absolutely.
There are two parts of the brain in particular. Well, there's a lot of parts of the brain that we should know, but there's two parts in particular as it relates to what we're doing right now. Right now, I am using what's called the Broca system in the frontal lobe of my brain. The Broca system is where speech production is created. As each of us spoke, you use the Broca system.
Right.
Right now, in you listening to me, you're using the Wernicke system, W-E-R-N-I-C-K-E, the Wernicke system in your brain that is located in the temporal lobe of your brain. That is where speech comprehension comes from.
Absolutely.
Speech production, Broca, frontal lobe, speech comprehension, Wernicke in the temporal lobe of your brain. So that the way in which I create my words to you, the way in which I express myself to you as I expressed it to my 5-year-olds, to my high school students, to my college students, which I'd like to tell you about what I experienced yesterday with the alphas, was no more, no less than my understanding how to use words. I think, Brother Tony, you spoke about words. The first 3 steps as it relates to virtues in Kamene was the control of your thoughts, control of your words, control of your deeds. All of them are words. Your thoughts are silent words. What you say are spoken words. And what you do is action words. The word was with God. Think of the Bible.
That's right.
In the beginning, there was the word. And that in Kemet is Atum, the creative word, the creative utterance. And so we already got this. If you can visualize it, you can actualize it. We got this.
That's right.
Freedom isn't at
Get
hand.
this stuff together here.
It's in your hand. You
That's
got
right.
it. Each of us got it. And the one thing that this society fears the most is that we will start to know that we know it. And we will put in action things that we can do. I was with the Alphas yesterday at New Paltz. I taught for 12 years at the State University, New Paltz. James Brunson,
Origin of Greek.
Frat and Soror, the African origin of Greek-led organizations. James Brunson. Fraternities and sororities are nothing. Okay, we spoke about Freemason, the son of light. That is the third and final step in the movement of life in Kush Kemet. Amongst the Dogon, they had 4 steps.
Right.
They had Jiriso, Beniso, Boloso, and Sodai. Beniso, Jiriso is the front word. Okay, that's children. That's why storytelling, morals, their vision is right in front. Okay, that's Jiriso when they're first born. Then under the proper tutelage, your vision starts to spread out. The Beniso. Beniso is the side words. Beniso, you could, and Beniso is basically the apprentice level in Kush Kemet. Then you continue to grow, you continue to go to the lodge, high school, college, beginnings of your work, and then you have the Boloso. So now the word goes from 0 to 180 to 360. Boloso is the back word. And then in eldership, as you rise through the ranks, you then have what's called Sodai, which is basically the clear word or the spirit word. Now, let me tell it to you the way my brother Obitashaka taught me. Obitashaka took the initiate, apprentice, son of light, the Jiriso, Beniso, Boloso, Sodai, and he compared it to jazz.
Ooh.
And he said that in the beginning, and he used jazz musicians as an example because the brother's into jazz. And so you could have taken a Charlie Parker, you could take John Coltrane, you could take anybody you want, Thelonious Monk, anybody. And he said that in the beginning of life, now we're dealing with the initiate and the Jiriso. He said, you're an imitator. Imitator. In other words, what you do is you imitate the master teacher. I likened it to Dr. John Henry Clark. Dr. John Henry Clark used to like okra and tomato. I started eating okra and tomato. Dr. Clark used to carry his briefcase in his left hand. I started carrying the briefcase in the left hand.
Yes, sir.
I was an imitator of the master teacher.
Right.
Right.
This is the obligation that we have to our children to become that example, lead by example.
Right.
That the young will imitate. But then you become an apprentice under the master teacher.
Right.
You then go into the Beniso and Boloso of the Dogon, but in the jazz reference, the metaphor, the figurative language, the ubiquitousness of figurative language, you become an assimilator.
Right.
You take part of your master teacher, but you come to realize, but wait a minute, here's me. So you assimilate the master teacher and you. And you begin to develop yourself using the model of the master teacher, but at the same time, you are introducing yourself to the genius that brought you to the master teacher in the first place.
Sir.
Nice.
So that's when I
Wow.
took Dr. Clark's
Wow.
wisdom and knowledge and I applied it by becoming an early childhood teacher.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Wow.
Now you're at the Son of Light. Now you're at Sodai, the clear word. From the imitator, you became the assimilator. Now you become the innovator.
Nice.
Ah,
And you do something that the master teacher didn't do, and that you didn't do anything yourself. You now do something that either of the first two steps ever took, and that's the purpose of life. The purpose of life and educating our young people is to make them better than you.
Yes.
Not like me, better than me. I don't want my son, my grandson, my granddaughter to be like me, my daughter to be like me. If I do my job right, you're going to become better than me.
absolutely.
Yes,
And that
sir.
is what
Right.
the pyramid showed. The pyramid showed the upward ascension of consciousness, where every generation took it to the next level. Because when you look at the dynasties, what you'll notice is that no dynasty was ever really created by the first Neset Biti or Pharaoh.
Right.
When you look at let's look at the 18th dynasty. The 18th dynasty was not started by Akmose. It was started by the last two Neset Bitiu or pharaohs of the 17th dynasty, Sekenere Tau and Sennacherib Tau. And what they did is they destroyed the 17th dynasty and they allowed their children to usher in the 17th. When you look at the 25th dynasty, Pianki didn't start the 25th dynasty. His father and uncle, his uncle Alara and his father Kashta pianki the 24th. And when I say destroy, I don't mean it in a negative sense. I mean, they broke it down into its pieces in order for Pianki to assemble it back together again to a higher level. When we sing, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. We end with do, but we started with do, but the second do is at a higher octave.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And that's what civilizations do. You start where you ended, and you end where you started, but you're at a higher octave.
Mm.
Right.
And all of our generations doing it. Hey, family, look, thanks to ancestral footprints.
Right.
When you think of your ancestors, if I took you back 500 years, there's a brother got a PhD in mathematics. And the brother and I used to talk. He taught me a lot about math. And I introduced him to the African concepts in math. And he taught me a lot about math. And I said, brother, I didn't even know that. But he said, but you did know that. You just didn't know it the way I'm about to give it to you, but you always knew it. And then I say, well, you always knew what I said. So that's how we go back and forth. But I told him this story and I said, and he said, well, there's no real name for what you're doing. But I said, okay, let's be bold. I'm going to name it myself. So I call it the exponential expansion equation. E to the 3. Exponential expansion equation. Each of us has 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents on down the line. Okay. If I took you back 20 generations, and we can do the math, exponential expansion equation. If I took you back to 1522, for you to exist, Brother Barron?
Yes, sir.
Brother Lithcoat?
Yes, sir.
Brother Tony?
Yes.
Brother Khalil? And every other human on the planet. If I took you back to 1522, for you to sit where you sit right now, it took 1,048,576 human beings to exist to bring you into existence. 1,048,576 human beings dwell within you.
That reminds me of Superman.
But guess,
Right. With the codex. Right.
but you know
Right.
something? I only took you back 500 years. How many do you have in you if I took you back 5 million?
Whoa. Yeah. Yeah.
You think you're
Go ahead.
alone? You think you're alone? We think we're alone? You'll never walk alone. Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells had a song. You'll never walk alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Walk with your ancestors all the time. What we're
Right.
doing right now is our ancestors who were on the plantation are reminding us of who we are and what we have to do. They are willing us into existence.
Right.
They say, I didn't manifest you in 1722 for you to turn out like this.
Mm.
Right.
So
Right.
what you doing about
Right.
this?
Right.
Right.
I went up and I spoke to the alphas. Okay. And I was in class, I would say maybe about 8 years ago. A brother come in and he's talking to his boy, you know, he said, yo, nigga, let me tell you. And then he looked at me and said, oh, I apologize, professor. That slipped. And I said, okay, but hold on a minute, brother, because I ain't gonna let you off like that.
Mm.
What does the word nigga mean?
Come on.
You know, you're using words. Okay, I understand. And quite frankly, I'm glad you said it because it gave me an opportunity to have this conversation with you.
Yes.
What does
Come on.
nigga mean?
Right.
Right.
And so he went through explanation. And then I explained to him the origins of the word ngr. Ngr as a sound, as a frequency. That is why n follows the 13th
Wow.
and 14th letter of the alphabet.
Mhm.
To understand the importance of what it is in sounds. The first family, the Twa Mbuti, the Khoisan people of Central South Africa, the first family, their teacher was nature. They didn't have a teacher
Mm.
as an anthropomorphic being. So who taught them? Nature taught them.
Right.
So they saw this bird, this
Right.
magnificent bird that flew overhead and flapped its wings. And when it flapped its wings, it sounded. So they named the bird Heru. They saw another bird. And I'm about to ask if I can share my screen.
Okay.
And the bird said, hawk, hawk, hawk. And I'm gonna tell you what I told the young people yesterday, the alphas. I said, do you know what that? See, the Greeks are superficial.
Mm.
They got caught up in the letters.
Mm.
But our ancestors was into the symbol from whence the sound
Right.
came, created the letter.
Right.
Now, if I may, Brother Tony, can I share my screen?
I'm gonna make you the host. Hold on just a second.
This is the cornerstone for us to be able to
Yes, you
truly,
can go in and share your screen.
this first piece I'm showing you comes from a book, The Historical Origins of Christianity. What you're looking at, I'm trying to bring it down. Is this getting in the way? Can you see the top line?
I can see it all.
I can see it myself.
Okay,
yes.
yeah. For me, there's something. There's a line across that's not letting me see it. But as you can see, you're looking at Medunetta, hieratic, demotic. Then it goes to the Greek. Then it goes to the Roman. Our alpha beta, the alphabet that we use, is African. The Rosetta Stone, they
Wow.
say the top is Medunetta or hieroglyphs. The next one is Demotic, which is a common script. And they say the third one is classical Greek. That's how they were able to decipher in the beginning, Champollion and others, Medunetta. That's not true. That third script that they call classical Greek really is another African script that the Greeks adapted.
Mm.
And it came from Medunetta. Because when you look at the vulture, you can see in the vulture, you can see how they form the letter A.
Yes.
Right.
When I was with the alphas, I was telling them, you know what you represent, right? You represent the vulture.
Mm.
And
Wow.
the vulture is a sustainer of life. The vulture is a female entity called Mut. And she is willing to take a part of her body to feed her children
Oh,
when
gosh.
they cannot be fed.
Wow.
Oh, God.
That's where the word mother comes from.
Mm.
That is where the word meter comes from. And that is the formation of ma'at. And mathematics really is ma'ati, the double ma'at, ma'ati, ekos, ma'atikos, mathematicos, mathematics.
Wow.
The vulture. Now, let me take you to the letter M. The letter M is the only letter we pronounce in sound that makes that your mouth has to be totally closed. A, B, C, D, K, Z, S, T, your mouth is open. M, you must close it. When you close your mouth to pronounce that is why you have the word because the sound when you make the sound, check it out. Let's try it. We're going to count. Okay, I'm going to count to 3 in Kiswahili. And when I get to 3, it's moja and mbili tatu. When I get to tatu, I want you to make the sound okay? Moja and mbili tatu. If you keep doing that, you may not get it now, but if you keep doing it, you will feel a tickling somewhere in the middle of your brain. That brain in Kemet was called the Shittitan Fint, SHTYTNTFND. That means the secret, sacred sanctuary.
Ooh.
It is right behind your olfactory bulb.
Wow.
See, when we get into the science of this, we shut the room down. Because even brain anatomists can't argue with me. It's right behind your olfactory bulb. And when you make that sound, all 6 of your senses, because don't believe them, you have 6 senses, not 5. Thinking is a sense. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thinking, thought. Those 6 senses meet in this area. And when you make that sound, you vibrate it in a pool of cerebrospinal fluid that has 13 times the amount of melanin.
Man, stop.
The Grand Lodge of Luxor was built in the direct proportion of the human body. And the area that I'm talking about is room 5 and room 12.
Wow.
In this, and exactly where that is where the pineal gland is. Now, let me tell you one other thing. Let me drop the other shoe. That is in your 6th chakra, because your 7th chakra is your crown. But if I take you down to your 1st chakra, that's where the G spot is. So you know what that G stands for behind you? It's the God spot.
Yes, sir.
And that is where, in physical relationships with women, that G spot is where all their nerve endings meet in one area. And then when we penetrate them and we rub up against that, we excite that area. And what's the first thing they'll call for? They'll call for God.
Boom. Come on.
But let me tell you, but brothers, I told you what the woman is, but in the man, it's your prostate gland.
Right.
That is where all your nerves come down and touch. And that's why that is what creates your what? Your semen. And think about the liquid. Look at the letter N. Look at the 14th letter. The letter N. The waters of Nun.
Yes.
The beginnings of all things. The beginning before the beginning began. Inger. When the Punic Wars took place and the Romans came down and came upon these phenomenal Africans, they said, "Who are you?" They said, "I am Negus Negusti, the king of kings." In Kemet, they said, "I am Neteru. I am a Neter. I'm a spirit. I'm a god."
Mm.
When they went over to
Wow.
West Africa, they said, "I am Mandingo, Ngo." When they went down into Southern Africa, Ngola, Nga. And so the Romans took that word and placed it in their language. And it became Negro. Out of classical Latin came Vulgar Latin. Vulgar Latin gave birth to French and Spanish and Portuguese and Romanian. And the Spaniards, being impacted by the Moors, and the Spaniards really are another Germanic tribe, the Visigoths and Vandals, they took that word Negro and they defined it as an African, Negro. Then the word came to America. And Negro, in order to enslave the African, the name that they called them left a description of the people and became a social status. And they call black folk niggers. So what I was explaining to the students, and I said, first of all, disclaimer, I am not encouraging you to use this word, nor am I discouraging you from using this word. I just want you to know why your elders don't like that word and why it bothers them. And I told them a story of a metaphysician by the name of Helene Blavatsky, a Russian metaphysician who was impacted by Pascal Randolph Beverly, who was her teacher. It was a brother from New York. And she traveled the world studying metaphysics, and she ended up in Tibet. And she studied it. She studied the symbols, and she brought the symbols back to Europe. And in these symbols was a particular symbol that a worthless military man looked at. He would become a leader of the people, and he would emblazon this symbol
We
on
already
the
got
flag.
you. We got you.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
we got you. We know where you're going. Keep going.
That's a sacred symbol
Yeah.
all over
Yeah.
Africa. They got it in West Africa, in Kemet, the Gramadan. If you curve it, it becomes the yin yang in Asia,
Mm-hmm.
and it represents balance and harmony. It represents the elliptical galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It represents the male female in harmony and in union that creates life. It was a beautiful symbol that a dirty man dirtied. So that if I should go into a room and put that, considering what Kanye is going through now, if I were to put that symbol on the, this is what I'm telling the students, the college, it's up on my Instagram site. So if you want to check out part of the conversation, if I were to put that symbol up and people of that faith system came in, because all they remember is the last thing that happened to their grandparents and their parents was they was murdered, they were raped, they were tortured.
That's right.
And that symbol was emblazoned in their consciousness. So what was once a beautiful symbol was dirtied by dirty people.
Right.
The same with the word. That was a beautiful word.
Right.
It meant God. It meant King of Kings.
Mm.
It meant spirit. But dirty people took a beautiful word and they dirtied it.
Right. Right.
And for many of our ancestors, some of the last things they heard before they were hung, before they were lynched, before they were raped, before they were murdered, they heard somebody call them a nigger.
Mm.
Dick Gregory wrote a book back in the 70s. He titled it Nigger, hoping that it would be so overused it would not have the impact that it had. He was right, but he wasn't quite right, because the younger generation took that word. Yo, that's my nigger. I love that nigger. The way they use that word is not in the same context that it was
Correct.
used when it was negative. The same way, if you were to see that symbol in its beauty, it wouldn't mean the same thing it meant in Nazi Germany. And so I was telling the students to understand why the elders don't like that word. And as it relates to people of European descent, some of them were in the audience, I said, you can't use it. And you can't use it because some of the funniest jokes I've ever heard told about people of Jewish faith have come from other Jews. Funny jokes, people laughing. If I told that joke, it wouldn't be funny to them. Some of the funniest jokes I've heard about Italians have been told by other Italians.
Right.
If I told that joke, that wouldn't be funny. And the reason is because, don't tell me because everybody else is using the word, you can. Because everybody's telling those jokes, but I can't tell those jokes.
Right.
Because when you are part of the group and you make fun of yourself, they know that you are not meaning harm because you're talking about yourself.
Mhm.
If someone of Jewish faith tells a joke about Jewish people, people can laugh,
Right.
but they are laughing with you, not at you. If I told a joke, they'd be laughing at you, not with me.
Right.
And so when Europeans say, well, you use the word can I? No, you can't. We can use it. Because if I use that word, I'm talking about me. And I explained to them, I said, I'll tell you this, I don't use that word. I don't use that word because I was born 2 years before Emmett Till was murdered. I don't tell you that word because my daddy's from Alabama. And he told me stories about what happened in Alabama. Even now, I'll tell you the truth. But the idea is that out of understanding and respect for what I know has become of that word, I don't use it. But I certainly know it's a beautiful word.
Right.
The same way I know that what is called a swastika, which is the black mark, by the way, svatsa, it was a beautiful symbol. It was the perfect black. But because a dirty man dirtied it and created heinous crimes, I would never entertain that symbol again. There's enough symbols and there's a bunch of words. I don't need to use those types of words or those symbols that bring hurt to other people. I wouldn't do it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's the
Right.
choice that I make. Now, to the young people, I just want you to know that you're kind of fulfilling what Dick Gregory actually wanted that word to become. That word don't bother you no more. So in a sense, you've been successful in returning it back to its beautiful, but you're living in a world where it is not a beautiful word because people don't know what I just told you.
Right.
And no matter what I may say about the swastika, and by the way, you know, the other thing is, we don't even realize what Hitler did. In reality, the first people murdered by Hitler were the blacks. They were the African Germans who had stayed in Europe after World War I. And the reason why he would, and you see, it's interesting the way I hear people, Nick Cannon did it, Kanye did it, but they didn't tell the story historically. The letter J didn't exist in our language. Even if you see that, all those letters, the letter J ain't nowhere near there. Check this out. I'm going to show you the next. There's the other chart that goes from the Medunetta, became Coptic, became Greek, and then the names came into existence, and then the letters, lowercase, and then came numbers from the Medunetta. We taught them this. Okay, I'm going to free my screen up here. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Okay.
Okay. I think I can do this, right? I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Probably.
Oh, stop share. Okay, stop share. Okay. So that, you know, what I'm attempting to do is to tell the story, because if you go back in history, see, World War I started because of what they did in Africa in 1885. the Berlin Conference. The Berlin Conference is when Europe carved up Africa.
Yes.
Okay. England got that. France got this. Belgium got this. You know, they broke it up. Germany got a part of what's Southwest Africa. Italy didn't get anything. All they had left, all that was left was Liberia, which America said, don't touch that. Because, you know, I did research for Dr. Clark in 1984 when he was going to do the 100th centennial of the 1885 Berlin Conference, he and Dr. Ben. And I was going to DC. I asked him if there's something that I could do. He said, I want you to do research on the role that the United States played in the Berlin Conference. Now, they'll tell you the United States played no part in that, but they did. They were ambassadors without portfolio, which means they were there, but they had nothing to say. But the one thing that they did say is leave Liberia alone because that's where the rubber plants are. And remember, this was the dawn of the airplane and the car.
Right.
The only other country left was Italy, was Ethiopia. And that's why Italy tried to get in there after World War I. But be that as it may, Europe got upset with the carving up of Africa and nobody got anything. That's what led to World War I. And while they were in World War I, to go along with the rubber plants, you need oil and gas. And that is where Lawrence of Arabia, double agent, was able to get in with the Saudi Arabians and the other so-called Middle Eastern countries. And that's where the oil came from. And then out of that war, World War I, once America got in, W.E.B. Du Bois told us, you know, you all need to go in there and fight. If you fight for America, you'll first of all, you'll learn how to shoot a gun. And second of all, you'll be able to say that you did something to protect the country. You have a right to it. So a lot of African Americans went into World War I.
Right.
But so did many Jamaicans and Kenyans and Yorubans. The English speaking went on behalf of Britain, Jamaica, Britain. In France, you had French West Africa. You had the Caribbean islands, St. Lucia, Martinique, Haiti. They all went and fought in World War I. But they were so decorated. Many of them didn't want to come back. So with the Africans that were already in Germany, all of these Africans remained in Europe. And Hitler went buck wild crazy. Just like they're doing now with immigration. They said, we got to get these Africans up out of here. And so they're first to be exterminated. And guess what? They studied a way to exterminate Africans through what was going on in the United States. Hitler was,
eugenics.
when you get into World War II, Hitler studied Indiana's rule to be able to sterilize prisoners. And that's what he used in terms of his eugenics. And so we don't really see, because we're so caught up in the story that they've told us. But the reality of it is the first people that were killed, and the reason why they went after people of European descent who practiced the Jewish faith was because they believed them to be impure, because they saw them as being black.
Really?
That's why Hitler wasn't creating a new religion. He was creating a new race.
Right. Master race.
Blonde hair, blue eye, everything that he wasn't. So that the way in which we approach this conversation has to be scientific, not emotional. His name couldn't have been Jesus because the letter J didn't exist. That's why, because I grew up Roman Catholic. When you look at the crucifix is when you have a cross with a human being on it. A cross is when you have a blank cross.
Right.
When you have a crucifix, it says I-N-R-I. And I always wondered, how are you going to tell me that means Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews?
That's right.
I ain't even gonna touch it.
Go ahead.
The letter J didn't exist. So they could not have been a Jesus, and they could not have been a Judas, and they certainly were not Jews because the letter J did not exist.
Couldn't pronounce it. It wasn't there.
Right.
It wasn't
Come
there
out-
until 1524.
Right, come out of French, correct?
Say that again.
Came out of French, correct?
It came out of an adaptation of Vulgar Latin
Okay,
that would have emanated out of a language. But the letter J as a symbol didn't exist. In Kemet, it was a DJ. It was a viper.
right.
Ja,
Gotcha.
ja has a DJ sound to it. So they
Right.
didn't need a J. They had a just sound.
Yes,
So it was a DJ sound. It was a viper. That it was a horned viper.
gotcha.
Mhm.
And so when we approach this conversation historically, I don't have anything against any religion, because in my research, in writing my book, Spirituality Before Religions, I came to realize that all religions came out of Africa.
Yes, sir.
But the book I wanted to write was Shabaka Stone. Shabaka Stone is the Old Testament and the New Testament combined.
Wow.
Genesis, the waters of Nun,
Yes,
Cain and Abel, Asar and Satan.
come on.
I can go through all the books.
So wait a minute,
The
back
books-
up. So did you write the book? Is the book published? What are we
Oh,
talking
yes.
about?
Yeah, here's Shabaka Stone.
Okay, you need to tell us where we can get that at.
Oh, you can go to my website, or you can go to the link in my bio on my Instagram. Here's Spirituality Before Religions.
Okay.
This was the book I wanted to write.
Oh, so is the book you wanted to write? Can I purchase that?
Yes, Shabaka Stone.
Okay.
I wrote this book to prepare the community for this book.
Gotcha.
And if you go to my website, you can download free the first you can download my free e-course and my free study guide.
Okay.
Now my next question is that I want to order my books, but I want my book signed.
Oh yes, yeah. When you
Yes,
order,
sir.
when you order on my website, www.kabakamene.com.
You want to put that? You want to put the? Hold on, I'm gonna put that. Hold on. I'm gonna try to see. Can I put that? If any of the if there are any administrators in the group, Brother Jackson, could you please put that
I'm gonna see if I can put it up here. Can you see it in the chat?
Go ahead. Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Okay. Okay, that's my website. When you go to there, my website, you put your email in. The first day of my e-course will come down, because before I published Spirituality Before Religions, I took the work of a brother named Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum and some other of the books that I used as research to develop an understanding of what I wanted to get in. In 1977, my mother brought home a copy, a Xerox copy, because it had not been reproduced yet. It had not been republished. She brought me home a book that people on her job said, if this brother's into Ethiopia, I know he'll like this book. It was a Xerox copy of a book titled Stolen Legacy
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
by George G.M. James. I got to the chapter 139 to 151. It was on the Memphite theology. The Shabaka Stone is a rewritten version of the Memphite theology. And when I read that, I promised myself in 1977, young brother, hadn't started teaching yet. I said, I got to write a book on Shabaka Stone, because I was very interested in astronomy and cosmology.
Yes.
And I had never read any reference to this type of cosmology that Dr. George G.M. James introduced me to. It was just so, I mean, my goodness, blew my mind. But as I got deeper and deeper into Shabaka Stone, I came to realize, see, the way we're introduced to Hebrew, because, okay, brother, you say we can talk?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
you can
Okay,
basically
let's
talk
just
to
go.
get tired. I got another, go ahead. I'll let you know. Go ahead. Roll it.
At the end of the Sixth Dynasty, when Kemet and Black folk were fighting amongst themselves, Indo-Europeans began for the first time to cross over into Kemet. These would be the ancestors of the Palestinians, Philistines to be exact. When they came across, and I recommend that you get a book, Kemet and the World View, edited by Jacob Carruthers and Maulana Karenga. There's an essay in there by Dr. Yosef Ben Levi. It talks about the first and second intermediate period in Kush Kemet. In the Kemetic language, according to Dr. Levy, brother, he says that the Africans began to call the Indo-Europeans that were coming across Ha-Ibri, H-A''I-B-R-I, Ha-Ibri. Don't believe a word I say. Check out the research. And Ha-Ibri, the leaders of these Indo-Europeans that were coming into Kemet, taking advantage of the internal fighting amongst ourselves, they called Ha-Ibrahim, or the leader of the ones who crossed over. So that's where we get the word Abraham and Hebrew from. Let's go into language. Let's go into science. And if I'm wrong, then I encourage people, come on with it. Teach me. Teach me where I'm incorrect.
Okay.
Show me your evidence, and I promise you, I will adapt to your way. If you are correct, and you can show me the error of my way, because I'm not looking for my way, I'm looking for the way, which is justice. And this is what my research has shown me. And so Ha-Ibri became the word for Hebrew, which began to define these Indo-Europeans, brown people. They were brown, but they came across. Now, you'll get the story that will come from scholars of the Jewish faith. One in particular, his name is Abba Eban, who used to be an ambassador. He wrote a book, A History of Civilization, where he tells you that Abraham and his father Terah, T-E-R-A-H, left the city of Ur in Mesopotamia, which is now called Edessa, E-D-E-S-S-A, in the year 2000, with no religion. Sigmund Freud wrote a book, Moses and Monotheism, that will tell you this, and he'll show you in two parts of his book how Indo-Europeans came into Kush Kemet and adapted. That is why Moses is brought up in the house of the Pharaoh. He was learned in their ways. This is what they say themselves. And so the reality is that we get the impression the Old Testament and the New Testament. What I attempt to do in Shabakistan is I try to show you that what we today call the faith system of Judaism, along with the Kabbalah, which is the spiritual system of Judaism, just like Sufism is the spiritual system, as brother was pointing out earlier, Sufism is the spiritual system of Islam. And so what we're looking at as we develop these concepts and understand these ideas is the fact that long before Atonism is what Akhenaten brought in, and that is what Judaism is based on. It's based on Atonism, which came out of Kush. But long before there was Atonism, there was Aminism, which has the priesthood. This is why you have a pope. A pope is today's pharaoh, and the cardinals are today's high priests and priestesses. And you have a taxonomy in order, just like you have in the lodge. You have a taxonomy of order. In reality, Amenism is where Christianity came from. Atonism is where Judaism came from. But the reality is, what we would consider to be Christianity from Amenism existed before Judaism. Because it was out of Amenism, his name was Amenhotep IV. He corrected his name to Akhenaten, which was a political move. But the idea was the Amen priesthood existed for thousands of years before Atonism. If that is true, then it means that Christianity existed before Judaism. But not just that. If you go check out Heavy is the Crown, which is a documentary I was in, it's on the Assyrian drama. That's what this is about. That's why I wrote this book, because I have a chapter dedicated to the Assyrian drama. Because the Assyrian drama, actually, the Assyrian drama is the entire story of God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Ghost, which is a dove. That's Ma'at. It wasn't Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. That's very male dominated.
Very much so.
It was father, mother, and child.
Yes.
And so, for instance, I grew up Roman Catholic. We all know about altars that we have. I served Mass. I was choir boy, altar boy. I used to serve Mass. And I remember I used to watch the priest take the host, okay, and lift it up, do it, and we clean the altar off, and he do all sorts of things on the altar. And then there's a part where you then, it's called transubstantiation. Trans means across, substantiation means substance, cross substance. This is when that wafer is turned into the body of Christ.
Right.
And the water and wine is turned into his blood. Now, wine is the earthly spirit. Water is the spiritual system. So when you mix water and wine, that becomes the energy system of the heavens and the earth. And so you eat the body and you drink the blood.
Yes,
In my book, Spirituality Before Religions, I go right into the pyramid text where you can see where that Eucharist, you are Christ, Eucharist,
Come on.
where it came from.
Sounds like an initiation to me.
But that's what that is, because the altar really, remember, Asar is going to die and his son Heru is going to resurrect him.
Right.
The altar actually is a sarcophagus
Come on.
that buries the father but raises the son.
Oh.
It is a coffin for the father, the cradle for the child. That's what the altar is.
Right.
And you wonder, well, what was and why was all those special words said over? Transubstantiation. Also, there's another word, a Lutheran, a consubstantiation. Con means with substance, and that is where you're crossing over from earthly substance to heavenly substance. But that's where Asar is rising, and Heru is sitting on the throne of his father, and that's why you see the priest will go back and sit in the chair, because now he is Heru who is resurrecting his father.
Well, I'll tell you this, Professor. Is it possible we can get you back to do a part 2?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to put my Instagram up here also.
Yeah, do that. No, I'm gonna take that and then I'll share that also.
Because, family, for me, it's about science.
Yes, sir.
It's not about emotion.
Right.
If I were a person of European descent, I would do the same thing to us that they do.
Well,
their time is up. And remember this, Heru did not revenge his father's death. He avenged his father's death. When you revenge something, you go after the culprit. You go after the person that commit the crime. when you avenge your father's death, then you sit on the throne and continue to rule. And the throne is female,
Yes,
Aset.
yes.
She has
Come on.
the throne on her head. This is
Right.
where you
Yeah.
see the nurturing of the child in the mother's lap, where he is suckling at her breast. She is sustaining and nurturing the future.
Yes, sir.
So
Come on.
to sit on the throne means that it is the feminine energy that has given you the right to rule. So
Right.
in the African tradition, there is an absolute equality. In fact, I told women, and they got really upset with me because they didn't understand what I was trying to say at first, but I said it that way to really get to them, to get their attention. I said there should never be an ERA amendment. There should
Wow.
never be a law of equality for women. And they got
Wow.
very upset. And I let them calm down. And I said, because whenever you have a law that gives you equality, if they snatch that law back, you ain't equal no more. The equality of a woman is a natural law. It's not a man-made law. It's not a human law. The woman and the man were meant to sit next to each other on the thrones.
Right.
Not in front, not behind, not above, not below. Not one better, one worse, superior, inferior.
Side by side.
Balance. Side by
Mhm.
side.
That's the key. Balance is the key.
Right.
That
is-
What you were saying earlier about the complementarity of the gods. You cannot have male without female.
Cannot have. Dr. Ben say you cannot have a god without a goddess.
Right.
So
Right.
look, here's what we're gonna do, everyone. We're gonna go ahead and tie this down for the night. I know it's late on the East Coast, but Professor did tell me. He said, I'm a night owl.
Oh, man.
I'm up. It's late, but I'm up. That's what I do.
Oh,
So,
bro, I'm not in my prime yet, man. I'm in my prime between 2 and 4 in the morning on East Coast.
Hey, come on. That's my favorite time.
He's
too.
I'm
probably
warming up
talking to
now.
his
Y'all
ancestors
warm me
about
up.
that time of morning.
Y'all warm me up because I'm writing my next book on melanin. That's my next book.
Okay.
Ooh,
Nice. Nice.
And,
Oh, yeah.
and the subtitle is Gods on Earth.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna have to bring you back.
Yes,
You-
sir.
I'm gonna reach back out to you. I know you're a busy guy. You got a long schedule. Let me know what works for you. I know night this time works for you. So during the week, because I know your weekends are pretty heavy. So we'll get you on another Thursday, possibly after the holidays or before. It just depends on you for next month. Is that possible?
We'll work it out, brother. Somehow or other, we'll work it out.
Okay, I have no problem with that. I'll take you for your word. And look, everyone, I appreciate you being here and staying
Tony,
this long. Yes.
now you say after the holidays, don't none of us celebrate holidays? Like,
Look, I try to spread a little respect across the board. I mean, I don't do the thing, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Most of us on here don't celebrate that stuff.
all right, okay, we'll see what the professor says. I know his schedule is busy, so I see what he got to say.
We'll work it out.
We'll work it out.
The
So-
answer is yes. The question is when.
Okay, all right, there you go. So, Professor, you got to turn this back over to me on the
Oh, how do
host
I do
thing.
that, man?
Let me go back in here. I might be able to reclaim it.
Because I think you reclaimed it the last time.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. I reclaimed it. But anyway, so look, I like that revenge versus a vengeance. I kind of like that. I learned something. I appreciate that. That really dropped the mic right there. So look, everyone, I want to say thank you for coming on and spending this 2 hours with us, 2.5 hours almost with us. This was very enlightening. I think I kind of cut us short a little bit, but I believe on part 2 of this, we're going to be able to ride a little higher. As the professor said, we want to do, re, mi, do, going to be able to do that octave a little higher. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And once again, I want to say thank you for coming on. And Professor, you get the last word.
I just want to say the next time we get together, family, we are workshopped out, we're lectured out. I'd like to have a meeting at the African Square. I'd like us to talk about how we can do something with this.
Mhm.
And in ending, I just want to say, I respect you, I honor you, And I understand that we have work that we have to do.
Blessings,
And
peace.
all we got to do is keep on keeping on, because it ain't over till we win.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And solar power is the future wealth of the planet. Teach the children solar power. Isn't it interesting that every place where the sun shines the brightest, the people are the most melanated? The Creator placed wealth in our backyard.
Mm.
Learn about it.
Yes, sir.
Peace, all power to the people.
All power to the
Peace.
people.
All power to the people.
I want to thank everybody for coming on, and I appreciate you. And join us next time. We're going to get deeper into this conversation. So I want to say peace out to everybody.